An ambulance packed with explosives detonates on a crowded Kabul street, killing more than 100 people. A military base in Kabul is attacked, leaving almost a dozen dead. An international hotel under siege for 12 hours, more than 20 people gone. And then an office of the NGO Save the Children is brazenly attacked. Another long battle ensues, ending with multiple deaths. These are just some of the attacks in Afghanistan in recent weeks, and they all came after President Trump announced he was withholding security aid from neighboring Pakistan for giving safe haven to terrorists. Is there a connection? Joining me now from Kabul is Mujib Mashal, the New York Times' senior correspondent in Afghanistan, and Hussein Haqqani joins us as well. He was formerly Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S. Mujib, so let me first start by just asking you, is it fair to say that this increase in pressure seems pretty directly related to Trump's policy of getting tough with Pakistan? This is Pakistan's policy, in a way, of getting tough with Trump.
I think so. I think when the policy was announced, everyone was expecting an escalation, that if you squeeze Pakistan, there's definitely going to be a backlash immediately. But you always expect an uptick in urban fighting and urban explosions during the winter season. So that coincided with the blowback of the Trump squeeze of Pakistan. The escalation is very clearly felt, particularly in Kabul, where, as you described, there's been a series of attacks. Not only has that affected the civilians, but also has increased the pressure on the government that is already politically very weak. And it's just been deadlier. The attacks, maybe the frequency of attacks is not unprecedented, as happened in previous years. It's just that the attacks are much deadlier than before.
Hussein Haqqani, I think many Americans, people around the world must be wondering, this is 16 years, 17 years, the most powerful military in the world. Why is the Taliban so strong? Why is it so resilient?
The Taliban are not strong. The fact remains that the Taliban offered Afghanistan nothing while they ruled except daily executions. Basically, they have a safe haven and they have retained their core fighting force. And America has not really fought them effectively. President Bush got distracted with Iraq. President Obama announced a surge, but also announced the date that the surge would end, which basically meant telling the Taliban, who already believed that the Americans have the watches and we have the time, that there is a limit to which you have to wait, and after that you can have success. Now that President Trump has said what he has said, I think the Taliban want to prove that they will continue to be a nuisance, they can continue to attack, and their backers in Pakistan want to demonstrate that there is no solution to the Afghan quagmire except talking to them and talking to the Taliban through them. I think that President Trump has essentially shown that America can try to fight to win, which hasn't been done so far.
Mujib, what about this issue of the legitimacy of the Afghan government? Because at the end of the day, if America is at some point to leave Afghanistan, it can only leave if that government is seen as legitimate. What is your sense?
Sadly, right now, the government is not in that position. It is a politically weak government. It is struggling with the periphery. Its space of control has shrunk over the years. President Ashraf Ghani, he came with a vision. He's a Western educated. He lived in the West for a long time. He has a very clear vision, economically driven vision. But he has struggled to connect with his own people. He's struggled to work with the political elite that have gotten used to 14, 15 years of a certain way of being stakeholders in this state while continuing to do their dirty business. So it's not just the legitimacy, but it's also the fragility of the political setup that is in question right now.
Hussein, you outlined the Trump administration pursuing a kind of very aggressive new strategy, more bombing, more troops involved, and of course this very tough talk and action against Pakistan. It feels like you almost need a kind of Henry Kissinger to pull off this kind of very complex diplomacy. Do you think they're up to the Trump administration is up to it, or will the Pakistani military ultimately outwit and outlast them?
Well, very simply stated, Pakistan is not going to change any of its policies just under threats and because of statements. It'll all depend on whether all the various instruments of American national power are brought to bear, and primarily to win the argument, to convince Pakistan's generals that just as they haven't succeeded in 16 years and America hasn't succeeded in 16 years, can there be a solution in which Pakistan's genuine concerns about an Indian military presence in Afghanistan can be addressed? India is not interested in sending troops from what we have gathered so far, but convince them that their imaginary fears should not be the reason why Afghanistan and Pakistan should continue to suffer the war. I don't know if anybody in this administration at the moment is making that argument to the Pakistanis effectively.
Mujib Mashal, Hussain Haqqani, fascinating conversation. Thank you both.